What do coffee commercials, a vampire librarian, and a rock opera have in common? Anthony Stewart Head, of course. Hey, it's Emma, and I'm in a playful mood today. Buckle up, because we're spilling the tea on one of the smoothest voices and most versatile faces to ever stalk a TV set. So let's talk. Anthony Stewart Head, English actor, singer, total Swiss Army knife of entertainment. If you know him as Rupert Giles in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, congrats, you have taste. But the plot twist is, he was already a household name in the UK because of the Nescafe Gold Blend commercials in the late 80s and early 90s. That elegant will they or won't they coffee romance with Sharon Ma, a British actress and his on-screen coffee soulmate, felt like a mini soap playing between the weather and the football scores, and it made him major. Then he goes global with Buffy, later turns up as the terrifyingly stern Uther Pendragon in Merlin, plays a very cheeky prime minister in Little Britain, and in the 2020s he appears as Rupert Mannion in Ted Lasso, the ex you regret texting back. Range, honey?
Let me set the scene. Teenage me, navigating high school like a baby deer on roller skates. I was low-key lost. Cliques, crushes, cafeteria politics. Big yikes.
Buffy comes on in the late 90s, and there is Giles, the mentor, the librarian with receipts. Calm, bookish, deadly with a crossbow, but also the guy who makes you feel seen. I can't explain how comforting that was. I had a teacher who reminded me of him. Tweed vibes, dry wit, believed in me when my math grades were an epic fail. Every time Giles guided Buffy through some apocalypse with a cup of tea and a plan, I was like, okay, breathe. There's a method here. Head played him with warmth and sly mischief so you felt safe. Like, yes, the hellmouth is open again, but Dad voice says we've got this. That energy bled into my real life. I started asking for help, making study plans, and weirdly, carrying a notebook like it was my Slayer handbook. Not me, but me. The stakes felt huge in high school. You know that feeling, if I mess this up, the world ends. What Giles offered was resilience. Learn the lore, sharpen the stake, trust your people. Anthony Stewart Head turned a side part and a baritone into a masterclass on mentorship. And yeah, when he sang on Buffy's musical episode, Once More with Feeling, it was like, oh, he is not just a watcher, he is a whole performer. That moment actually led to him doing Repo the Gemetic Opera later, a full-blown rock opera directed by Darren Lynn Bousman, the horror filmmaker behind several Saw movies. Tell me that is not glow up. Okay, let's jump to the big picture. Anthony Stewart Head was born in the 1950s in London into a creative family. His dad was a documentary filmmaker and his mom an actress, so the arts were literally the family business. He trained at LAMDA, a top-tier acting academy in London, and by the late 1970s he was doing stage work like Godspell and popping up on TV in Enemy at the Door, a World War II drama. In the 1980s he sang on records and landed a cameo in Not the 9 O'Clock News, that legendary British sketch show. Then, the coffee era hits. The Nescafe Gold Blend ads from the late 1980s through the early 1990s, serialized, floaty, a total vibe. North America got a version called Taster's Choice in the early 1990s, and suddenly casting directors were like, oh, he can carry a story. Meanwhile, theater heads knew him for the Rocky Horror Show as Frank North. Furter, fishnets and all, and he even released Sweet Transvestite as a single in 1991. Yas Queen? 90s plot twist. He filmed the Jonathan Creek pilot in 1997, playing Adam Klaus, a flashy magician, but then got the call-up for Buffy. He chose Buffy, and it was career-defining. From 1997 into the early 2000s, he was Giles. He even moved to the US for the job while his family stayed in the UK, which is a real-talk example of the personal trade-offs behind the glam. After Buffy, he bounces across formats like a pro, Man-Child in 2002 in the UK, Little Britain in the mid-1900s as that deadpan prime minister, and Merlin from around 2008 to 2012 as King Uther Pendragon. On radio, he absolutely ate. Bleak Expectations on BBC Radio 4, playing both a melodramatic villain and a narrator, and Cabin Pressure on Radio 4 as Herc Shipwright, the pilot with charm for gays. Voice acting galore. Video games like Destroy All Humans 2, and then in the 2020s, Ted Lasso as Rupert Mannion, the charming menace. Deliciously awful. Let's unwrap the people who shaped the journey. First, Sharon Mann, the British actress who co-led the Gold Blend coffee saga with him. Their chemistry was the marketing moment of the late 80s, and it taught the industry that a commercial could be a narrative, that he had leading man presence. Then, Joss Whedon, the creator of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Whatever you think about him, and yes, there have been plenty of headlines, he wrote Giles as the emotional spine of the show and trusted Head to be the grown-up in the room without being boring.
That is a razor-thin line, and Anthony danced on it in brogues. Career struggle moment. In 1996, he auditioned to be the 8th Doctor in Doctor Who, a role that went to Palm again, known for Whitnell and I in later Doctor Who audios. Ouch, right? Except Anthony pivoted like a champ. He ended up all over the Doctor Who universe anyway, a villainous headmaster in School Reunion in 2006, narrator for Doctor Who Confidential, voice work in the animated special The Infinite Quest, and even the webcast Death Comes to Time. Sometimes the door you wanted stays shut, but 5 side doors open and lead to the same party. That is the lesson. And the pressure points were real. Imagine being the coffee guy and needing to prove you are more than a wink over a latte. He did it the hard way. Stage credibility in Rocky Horror, legit drama and persuasion in 2007 as Sir Walter Elliot, which even got him a Monte Carlo nomination, and a glammy US pilot in 2006 called Him and Us with Kim Cattrall from Sex and the City, even though it never went to series. This man kept plates spinning and frankly made the spinning look chic. Okay, pause, because this next part is everything. The Little Britain timeline? Some sources say he was in it from 2003 through 2006. Others say 2003 to 2005. Why should you care? Because timelines tell the story of momentum. If the Prime Minister sketches were mainly 2003 to 2005, which is where I land, then 2006 probably includes cameos or specials being lumped in. Precision matters when you are mapping a career arc. It shows when someone moved from sketch comedy energy back into drama or into Merlin, and how audiences followed. Sloppy dates make it look like he is everywhere at once, which is flattering but not fair to the real pacing of the work.
Speaking of arcs and afterlives, The Ripper almost happened. That was a proposed BBC Buffy spin-off around 2007 centered on Giles. Reportedly close, then poof. Right schedules the usual killjoys. But the fact it was even a conversation tells you how fans felt.
Decades later, in 2023, Audible dropped Slayer's A Buffyverse story, and he returned as Giles with a bunch of the original cast, like James Marsters, who played Spike, and Charisma Carpenter, who played Cordelia. People lost it in the best way. That is cultural stickiness. That is a character living rent-free in fandom's brain. And let's not skip the voice. Anthony Stewart Head's baritone is a velvet sledgehammer. It carried radio comedies like Bleak Expectations, where he played both the melodramatic villain Mr. Gently Benevolent and the narrator Jeremy Sourquill, and Cabin Pressure, where he was her shipwright. Honestly, a standout. He narrated behind the scenes for Doctor Who, dove into audiobooks, and popped into games. That voice opened parallel career lanes that kept him omnipresent even when he was not front and center on screen. Smart play. Then we get to Ted Lasso in the early 2020s. Jason Sudeikis, the show's creator and star, builds this warm comedy about belief and kindness, and Anthony walks in as Rupert Mannion with the perfect amount of snake in a tux. It cemented his late career swagger, and the ensemble even got that SAG nomination in 2024. And still, off-screen colleagues praised him as the nicest man, which makes the villainy even tastier. Chef's kiss. Personal life, quick but important. His longtime partner was Sarah Fisher, an animal welfare advocate he met in the early 1980s. They never married but called themselves married. 2 daughters, Emily and Daisy, both actresses. That is a creative dynasty. And yes, we lost him in 2026, with tributes pouring in from the Buffy and Ted Lasso families and major outlets memorializing him as a TV mainstay. The way people talked about him, craft and kindness in one sentence, tells you everything. Buffy is a dark brand of 7 spices in cup. Here is why Anthony Stewart Head matters right now. He shows that a career can be many things. You can be a cult icon and a mainstream dad favorite, a stage diva and Rocky Horror and a satirical prime minister, the warmest mentor and the slickest villain. You can lose a dream job like the Doctor and still become part of the same universe from every other angle. You can start in a coffee ad and wind up shaping people's teenage years on a supernatural drama. That is the blueprint for resilience in an industry that eats people for breakfast. So what sticks with me is this. What sticks with me? I do the homework, to do the homework, to show up like my name is on the line. Anthony Stewart Head gave that character a heartbeat. And decades later, when he stepped back into Giles' shoes for audio in 2023, it felt like a friend checking in. That is the kind of pop culture that becomes a relationship, not just a rerun. Okay, we covered a lot. Coffee, tweed, capes, microphones, and a whole lot of charisma. Next time, we are diving into another cult TV journey. Think beloved side character who stole their show and never gave it back. I am obsessed already.
So that's the tea, folks. Stay curious, be kind, and keep spilling the tea with me next time. Later!